hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, now I can hear you. Can you?
Oh.
I think it's Safari. Actually, it's worth telling people that if you can have Firefox or Chrome, it behaves much nicer than Safari.
I'm in Chrome. I find Chrome a better extension it's a better extension in Chrome. But yeah, I was thinking as well, obviously moving to Meet Echo, although there's a bit of a pain the first time using it. For those that haven't been to an IETF before, it's good practice.
Yeah.
Figuring out all the little nooks and crannies.
Yeah. There's a few people.
I see people
Dennis
dripping.
and Martin.
We'll give them a few minutes, I think, because some people might not have used Meet Echo before, so it can be an interesting journey.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. This is a Chinese doctor. I want to follow your work. Now I did some work about MPTCP and MP Quick, so I want to learn about this in your group.
Fantastic.
Now, could you please tell me uh, when will the next meeting in our group? It's deep night in China, so I want to make my schedule for the next meeting in our group.
Okay, all of the meeting invites have been sent out to the SATP mailing list. They're also available on the data tracker. We do have a session, a working group session at the IETF 116 in Japan at the end of the month as well.
Okay, thank you. Now I will subscribe the email list. After that, I will get the email from you, right?
Brilliant. Are you not subscribed currently?
Yeah. This is my first time to.
Welcome. Welcome.
Okay, thank you. What's the topic tonight?
So today is a standard working group session, or an interim session, I should say. So we'll go through the agenda in a moment when everyone's had a chance to log in. It was made available on Data Tracker. I don't know if you've had a chance to see it. Probably will be a bit of a recap from the last month of the authors that have spent time talking to each other and making any kind of advancements to the documents. And preparation for the working group next Friday, not the following Friday, the 31st, I think we're on, Friday the 31st.
Thank you.
No worries. We'll give people until 5 past to get a chance to log on. This is a new way of us meeting. We've been meeting by Zoom before, so just give people a chance to get logged in and set up, and then we'll start.
Claire, is this going to be recorded?
Sorry, say again.
Is this going to be recorded?
Yeah, it's recorded, yeah. It will be uploaded to the data tracker website. I can send a link round at the end of the meeting if that's easy.
Okay.
I think that's given everyone enough time. So This is our first official interim meeting, so welcome everybody. Thank you for those attending. Those
Hello?
We might have lost Claire.
Lost Claire, right? Yeah.
Claire.
Thomas, you were going to make a presentation, weren't you?
Yes, I have just a quick slide on the changes on the architecture draft. So Claire is offline. Okay, we can wait.
Yeah.
I know I requested also some time if this is of interest for the stage 0 thing.
I think
don't
it's
know.
on the agenda,
It's on the
Dennis.
agenda.
At the end, it says all the discussion, which is we've been talking about context ID and session ID. We need to talk about this because
sorry, I'm a bit lost. So where should I see the agenda?
It's
an
in the
agenda link in
calendar.
the invite.
Yeah, there's like 3 links.
So Thomas, are we going to discuss the specific plan for the 2-hour session on 31st?
I hope so. Yes, I think that's part of the thing is who's gonna present at the IETF in Yokohama and for how long. I think we have the venue for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
I think it's 2 hours. Yeah, 2 hours.
2 hours, yeah. It's 6 a.m. my time.
Yeah, we need to maybe look at a flip-flop time zone. I know other groups, I think Hyperledger does that, right? That there's the sort of US, Europe centric one, and then there's the Asia centric one. So at least everybody gets one chance to listen at night, join at night.
Yeah, there's usually for any project we have the 3 different times, and every week you get a different time, and hopefully people who want to join a call in that zone can listen in, so they don't miss anything.
Okay, so yes, go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
Oh no, this is, by the way, this is normal. Every time there's a meet echo, and it's even more complicated if the chairs are in the room, physically in the room, and a whole bunch of people are like at home, remote. It's like, okay, there's always like technical issues. So this is normal. I think. I hope Claire comes back soon.
So for the 31st meeting, I guess there will be 3 presentations, right? One on each of the drafts that are currently listed in the charter.
Yes, and I've asked the chairs that if we have extra time, I'm happy to give a overview of the whole thing for 20 minutes, because there might be some people particularly in Japan who are new to this. So just having what is this about, just basically the old slides that we've been presenting for the last 2 BOFs and before that.
Yeah, makes sense. And will you have time for anything else apart from that, like discuss maybe?
Yeah. So this is what we have to ask. I mean, how much time is left, and then if you have ideas and thoughts, I think, yeah. Okay. And in other working groups, I do know that, I mean, if you have, if there's 10-minute slot, then somebody might present on just a rough sketch of an idea, just to get immediate feedback, is this like good idea, bad idea, go to the pub, kind of. Yeah, but then, folks, I actually tried joining using Safari, and it just wouldn't allow my audio through. So I think I have been told that Firefox or Chrome on a Mac works better for Meet Echo. Yeah.
I'm using Firefox. Works for me. So it's enough to register just for that one day, right? We have that option.
Yes. Just a matter of interest, how many people here are going to be there in Yokohama in person? I guess it's just me. I think Claire is, she can confirm, but I thought she was thinking of going.
Wes will be there too, right?
I think so, yes. Yeah, so for the new person, this Ziyang Xing. Ziyang, there is a mailing list, and we have been meeting, I think bi-weekly, but there are at least 3 or 4 interim meetings.
Hello, I'm very glad to join this group, and this is my first time to enter this meeting. So I want to know the topic of tonight, and it's a deep night in China.
Yeah, I know. We will have to fix that. We'll have to like do the flip-flop thing, because it's also a night in India, right? It's like 8 p.m. or 9 p.m.
Yeah. No, you are from India. Okay, yeah, it's very close to China. Yeah.
Yes. But are you on the mailing list, Jiang? The SAT mailing list?
Yeah. You know, I can speak both English and Japanese and Chinese. Yes, I can speak 3 languages, and I did some work about MPTCP and MP Quick. Uh, I want to also create a draft in IETF, and I'm a new learner. Uh, yeah, I'm also a doctoral student in East China.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Welcome to the group.
So thank you.
Do we have Claire back again? Claire, we can see you on the thingy, but we can't see your video or audio.
Okay. Okay. I wanted to open my camera.
Oh no,
Okay.
it's okay. Claire, the chair of the meeting.
You mean my microphone is not clear enough?
No, it's okay. No worries. You're good. You're good.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Used to be online. She dropped a comment in chat. Thomas, seems you should be starting the proceedings. If you click on the chat, you'll see Claire's messages.
Well, where's the chat box?
Chat is on top of the list, next to the number of participants.
Oh, there you go. Okay. So should I just start? Should I just okay? So folks, welcome. Gee, this is Deja Vu. Have we not been here before? But using a different tool. So I think the first thing is to show the slides. Was it the Notewell slide? Let me try presentation view, and for the life of me, I don't know how to do that. How do I actually present anything?
See the menu on the top? It's on the leftmost option there.
But how do I actually choose my PDF? Okay, how do I actually show anything?
Presentation view and then see if you get an option.
Oh, you asked to share slides. Okay. Let me just go back. Sorry, guys. This is still okay. Oh dear. Okay, so I'm not logged in as I'm not logged in as the chair, so I have to request sharing view. But you know what? You guys know what the IETF Notewell slide are. But so let me get going. I think the first item that Claire had on the agenda was just the updates. So let me describe the updates done to the architecture document. So the big thing is that now both the architecture document and the SAT core document matches the color version 16 of our nice color flow diagram, except for the messages going out from the gateway into the network, right? So it's just the inside lane that's being recorded, captured in the architecture and in the core SATP core protocol document. That's the first thing. So no surprises there. It's just it's just me catching up the documents to the flow diagram. The second thing is that in the architecture, I've added a terminology there, context ID and session ID, which we can this is the topic of discussion today. Is that one ID? Is it well, one has to be connected to the other. How do we do that if there's two IDs and so on? But I've put it into the terminology section of the architecture document with the expectation that it will be copied out and moved out into our a separate document. I believe we want to do some kind of a glossary document. What do we call it? Terminology document is what Wes called it. So it's there. It's I think the last two entries in the terminology. It's not alphabetical. I keep adding to the end of the terminology section of the architecture document. And then thirdly,
Sorry, Thomas. Is there a terminology document published somewhere?
No. But I think Wes was suggesting that we as a group have a separate draft on terminology. I think it was on the mailing list, and I think that the hint. I think they're looking for somebody to edit this, to compile it and edit it. So if you have any spare cycles, and you're not writing drafts,
Yeah, I mean, I think some of us volunteered. I think you did, Dennis did, I did. So
yeah. Okay, so maybe we could just compile everything, in one like Word document or one draft, and then we just go through and say, is this do we like what it says there? Like for example, the word like the term blockchain, we don't have to like define that. Just literally copy whatever somebody else says, like the NIST document. It's got its own glossary at the end, so we don't have to like reinvent terminologies if it's already there, particularly if it already comes from NIST, which means it's people have seen it before and sort of have captured it sort of mentally. Probably the third thing or the fourth thing. The third thing is that in the core document now, every flow, previously did not do this. Every flow now has a session ID, right? Which is interesting that I guess we kind of I kind of did not add that. So now literally if you look at the latest version from 2 days ago, anything coming from the client gateway 1 to gateway 2 to the server has a session ID, which is independent of there's a thing called the counter. So the idea here is that the client and the server has their own, the gateway has their own local way of tracking. I think we just called it the counter value, but the session ID remains the same for the beginning of the session. And so the session ID in stage 0 or stage 1 identifies the asset to be transferred, so that we don't have to repeat what asset has to be transferred within each message. I mean, we could do a hash, of course, but you know what I mean? So the binding between, I want to move this, tokenized asset bound on this session ID occurs in stage 0. And if you look at it, in fact, the flow doesn't really have any asset being moved. It's just literally an agreement flow that proceeds. And then fourthly, which I think is on my slide, which I can't show, is that we may need to define the lock assertion JSON in such a way that there's an optional network specific or vendor specific body, right? Because right now, if it's just an assertion, it's just the yes, I did this literally, and that's just a one-liner. But what if there's, and this is probably relevant for you, Rama, if you actually want to carry some strange cryptographic proof that's unique to the origin network, but which G2 is able to parse and understand, great. Well, that's an optional extension, and it's going to just be a blob at the bottom of the lock assertion message. So that's kind of the idea.
Sure. The question on session ID. So who determines it in phase 0? Is it?
Yeah. So backing out. So I'm in conversation every time I talk about this outside the IETF. It's just 3 times now I've been asked, well, who's going to use this? How do we use this? And I kind of hand wave and say, well, there's an application that's going to drive this. And then next is, well, how does the application know which instance, is it referring to? And this is why we ended up having, so-called context ID and session ID. But I think if you look at my email this morning, Rama, I think the idea is that the context ID needs to be, it's out of band, right? It's stage 0 or phase 0 of the handshake between the application. And okay, so deck's ready. How do I actually choose a deck to be shared? Okay, that's all right. I don't know how do I drag it there? Give me 1 second. Maybe I should.
Whilst you're doing that, Thomas, who nominated themselves as the note taker? We got someone assigned to that.
Don't think anybody did.
If we could make sure we have a note taker, as this is an official interim meeting, we do need to make sure notes are being taken and shared properly with the data and uploaded on Data Tracker. So before we go any further, can we have a note taker, please?
Yeah, I've taken notes many times. I'll go ahead and take a note. Take notes here.
Thank you. That's very kind. Hopefully, that's given Thomas enough time to do the slides.
It seems. How do I actually load up the slides? Because I just dragged it and Firefox just crashed.
Oh, brilliant. If you go to meeting material, you might.
Meeting materials.
It may be that you have to upload slides before the meeting.
Yeah. Okay. That's okay.
Okay. Yes, you can go. If you go to the settings at the top of the screen, the little tool set next to the exit button.
I'm not going to touch Firefox again, Claire, because it's just
no. Okay, so it's in the screen that you're looking at. If you go to manage slides, you should be able to upload them from there.
Meeting materials, yeah.
No, so all the way across. So you've got the leave the room button right at the very, very right.
Yep.
And then one in from that,
Settings?
you should have settings, yeah, and then you should have manage slides in there.
Oh, it just says change devices, test local speakers.
I've got manage slides, so it's allowing me to upload them from here.
Yeah, it's a chair only. feature.
Yeah.
Share only. Okay,
Share
that's
only.
all right. I've been describing it. I mean, literally, that's what the slides just say. And so, if you look at figure 2 and 3 in the architecture document, you'll see that should, it's kind
Thomas,
of a,
maybe if you share the screen instead of share the slides. If you share a screen, maybe you can be able to show something.
okay. I've asked Claire to share the screen.
Yep, I can grant that.
Yes, okay. So you guys can see how much I lost in SVB. That was a joke, people. Yeah. Okay.
So with this in
Okay.
mind, guys that are authors, can we make sure, so Rama and Thomas and whoever, I think Alex and Dennis are co-authoring the terminology document, can we have the final draft over to either me or Wes, ideally the Wednesday before our session on the Friday, just so we can make sure they are available, ready for the working group? So we avoid this on Friday, the 31st.
You know what,
Yeah.
Dennis? I'm not gonna try sharing my screen because it just flickered. My bad. So listen to everyone. Send your PDF to the chairs before the meeting.
Yep.
Next time. Yeah.
Share it with me
so,
and Wes, and we can make sure it's uploaded.
Yeah. So that's
Claire,
kinda,
Dennis.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, responding to Claire, Dennis had a suggestion that we can coordinate on the terminology document on GitHub. Do you want to do that?
Yes, it should be a coordination, but we do need to make sure there is one or two authors who are the ones that edit it based on everyone's submission. So it should be a collaboration, as with all our documents, but we do need to, as all documents, someone needs to own the editing and making sure the changes are committed in line with the group's agreement. And I know Dennis and Alex have both volunteered on that. So I'm happy for them to be in control of the document with other people's suggestions, so long as we're obviously being fair with other people's suggestions and it is taking the voice of the group and the consensus of the group.
Sure. So, Alex, do you want to coordinate offline about that?
Yeah, we'll do.
Okay.
Claire, I just sent you my PDF, my bad, just in case. But I was gonna ask if Dennis, if you have any slides or images, you maybe you should send it to Claire.
Yes, I just send them also.
Okay. So folks, that's kind of the end of my sort of presentation. It's just basically reporting that and the fact that we have to talk about the session ID and context ID, and is it the same thing, or is the session ID derived from context ID? And so happy to have that discussion.
Yes, one question, Thomas, here. The way that I understand the session is that it defines a unique transaction between two gateways, right?
Yes, the session is so if the gateway is handling 100 sessions independently, each one, regardless of who the app is, will be unique.
Yes. So it's an instance of transfer between two gateways for a specific set of assets that are predefined. I mean, that they are defined for this.
That's right.
So one suggestion in the mailing list was, I sent this, was that if we define the context, it would include the session ID inside. Maybe there are other things.
Yes. Yeah. So in fact, the question is that the session ID is included in the context ID, or which one gets created first? Because I thought the apps was supposed to talk first and then agree on a 256 bit string or something.
If we follow the distributed transaction processing paradigm that existed back in the 90s,
I'm just uploading.
There is a context that was for global transactions among different sources, and in there we could define various things. And potentially we could use this, because when we initiate a transfer, this whole context about which gateways, I mean, all the eventually things, the networks and the session could be part of one thing. So it could be a composite thing, could be even a, like a small JSON, something that is the context that contains also the session ID.
Yeah, because then Dennis, there's this question is, if network one uses I don't know, some BFT variant, to choose to elect the gateway would not have known anything about this until it gets selected, and then somehow the app one needs to now talk to gateway one and say, hey, here's my context. That's the simplest model.
Yeah, that's where the line between what we communicate, what we negotiate in stage 0 might have an impact on what would be the things that we transfer as part of the unique session, the instance of the transfer, including the session ID. So maybe there is a chicken and the egg thing. If we don't discuss, stage 0, maybe,
yes.
I mean, we are.
Yes.
So,
I'm trying to understand. Yeah, avoid the chicken and egg problem. That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So, sorry. Excuse me. Dennis, did you want me to share the process you just sent me?
Yes, if you want.
Yep.
So I
Bear
don't
with
see
me.
yet.
I'm asked to share my whole email, so just shut your eyes for a minute.
It's also the first time that we do this Miteco thing, so we have to organize ourselves differently.
Can you just
We're seeing all your emails there.
So Meet Echo is let me just
double click on the I know it's
I'm trying to stop that from happening.
Meet Echo is
just
clunky.
look away. There we go. It is clunky. I've used nicer tools, let's be honest. Especially on hotspotting on almost no signal. It's fun. Am I sharing anything right now?
It just says it's being started. It takes a while.
Yeah, it's a bit of a warm-up situation, isn't it?
There
we go.
Okay, if I ask you to
so
share
what
my
we've
screen,
learned
maybe
is that any documents need to be shared with me in a PDF-only format in advance, please. Are you seeing the right screen now?
No, it still says the screen share is being started.
You should be seeing the right screen in a moment.
I made this request to share my screen in case that I can directly go to the...
Let me try improving yours then, Dennis. See if you have any better luck and a better connection.
Yeah, but it's not about choosing screen or not. It's about... It just says it's starting. It just keeps...
Which might take a while to go over. There we go. Yeah. I think because I'm in the office today, and as with the demo gods, apparently the first trial of a new system gods are very similar.
Yes,
and I've decided
don't,
to
don't move. We see everything. Thank you.
Okay. So I cannot see you, but okay, you see the sequence diagram.
Yes, go ahead, Dennis.
All right. So the thing that I'm trying to capture here is you see in the gray down at the bottom here, SATP is the sequence diagram that Thomas has, version 2500. I don't know what version number you have, Thomas, now in your sequence diagram. This is the gray box down here.
16.
16, okay. So the idea here is to see what we could do eventually in order to get to start the SATP protocol. So the idea is based on the fact that when it could work from the source to the target but can also work from the target to the source. But here I'm showing one case where client 1 wants to transfer something to client 2. So Alice wants to send something to Bob. So the idea here is the following. The client goes to the gateway and say, I would like to transfer something, I mean, a set of assets. So it receives back the context, and the transfer context is something that is identified by the gateway. Think about something that could potentially be signed by the private key of the gateway, something. So gateway 1 can recognize that this transfer context belongs to itself. So the client can go to the system and to the network.
Sorry, Dennis.
Yes.
Between 1 and 2, does gateway 1 check to see if the asset is already logged?
No. So there is
apologies. Am I just for clarity? Is this a potential flow? Is what you're showing, Dennis, a potential flow if we assume that gateway 1 is connected to a DLT?
Yes, when I say system here, it includes, I mean, what we call network, because it could be network, could be also a centralized system, but it's the system
only
one.
Because only because you said with the gateway be signed by a secret key, which obviously not all networks would use a secret key process. I mean, also just to clarify that this is outside of the scope of the SATP. So this is for context. Is this, Dennis?
Correct. So this is the negotiation before SATP starts. SATP is down in gray here. Okay, down the bottom. So this is all the stage before.
Wanted to make sure that everyone was very clear that this is not what the SATP is writing about, or the documents will contain. This is staging, just for those newcomers to the group.
So this is the phase before starting SAT. The SAT flow, again, it's the gray box down here. So it's everything that may eventually happen before. The idea is that the client goes to the gateway, and the gateway gives back a context that when somebody sees it, can recognize that it comes from the specific gateway. Okay, so it could be, for example, it could be signed with a private key that is owned by the gateway or any other mechanism. But the thing is that this transfer context belongs to gateway 1. So when the context is received by the client, then the client can go to the network. So again, systems here are networks, DLTs, or could be other systems. And it binds the assets to the specific transfer context, which means that I'm saying that I have, this specific, for example, token that I would like to transfer to client 2. And
Dennis, can I ask a quick question? What's the format of the context? Is it application specific, or shall we standardize it as well?
So some part of the context should be standardized. For example, to my view, it might contain the session ID. For example, what we see as session ID could be part of the context. So I initiate a transfer, and as the gateway, which is connected to the client that initiates this transfer, I create a session ID, which should be unique, across all transfers. So if I have that as a client, I can go to the network, and I can bind the asset to this specific transaction context. So I say I have this token that I would like to transfer to client 2. So the network, yes.
Thomas mentioned earlier that the session ID is supposed to uniquely identify a given asset that's marked for transfer.
No, the session ID uniquely identifies the instance of the transfer, not the asset.
Oh, okay.
If we see the lock assertion, for example, we're having the gateway definition. We have a bunch of assets that are locked by the DLT, and there is also somewhere, if I remember, there is also session ID somewhere there. So what it's proposed here is to have a transfer ID that refers to the context. The context could be a JSON file, for example, with many things, including the session ID.
So does the transfer context?
Yes.
Sorry, please go.
Yeah, you go ahead.
So does the transfer context tell the system in step 3 that there is a gateway available to carry out the transfer?
Correct. And I would like to bind this specific, for example, say you have a token to transfer, a non-fungible token to transfer. This asset is bound to this specific transfer context. So when later on inside SATP, the gateway goes to the network and say, I would like to lock it, it will pass the transfer context. So the system would know that it comes from the gateway and is consistent with the initial step here. That's also is, answering to your comment about the optimistic locking. You could have many clients that are binding the asset, but there is one gateway that will do the transfer at the end. There is nothing preventing clients to bind assets to transfer context. It doesn't mean that the first gateway, the first transaction context will transfer it. Could be optimistic, could be the one that comes first or whatever condition.
Okay. So does the transfer context expire in a passive manner? Like some of them may not succeed, right? Maybe this
could be, yes. It could be anything that the network can understand. For instance, if we take the distributed transaction processing, the network, the DLT, can intentionally pull out from the transfer at any moment. They don't have to, continue, and it could be a rollback then in that case.
But that's not something that we as a group are trying to solve for, is it?
All the things that I'm discussing here are conditions for a rollback inside SAT. So I'm not discussing about the specific conditions for rolling back, but I'm saying that here there is a binding of a specific asset to a context. So let me go through that in 2 minutes, and then we can have the discussion, just for you to have all the flow and see if it makes sense or not. Mm-hmm. So if I have the context, I'm in number 4. I will go to the client as Alice. I go to Bob and say, okay, this is what I would like to initiate a transfer to you. So I'm passing you a context. The context then from the client to okay, and then I can say you can begin the transfer. I can go as 5 as Alice to my gateway and say you can begin the transfer whenever you want. So what would be that moment? When Bob receives the context, it goes to the local system and say there will be a transfer that is going to happen. For the moment, this might be also something that doesn't make, there is no effect on the DLT because there is no asset yet in the DLT. The important thing here is number 7, is when the Bob goes to its gateway and say, I have a context that comes from a remote application that I'm passing to you. And because the transfer context contains information about the gateway 2 will go back to gateway 1 and say, okay, I am the other party. And I'm giving you back the context that you have created. There is a typo here. Also, it's a transfer. It's not a transaction context in 8. So as a gateway 2, I'm connecting with you, gateway 1, and I'm giving you the context that you have created, so you could recognize that this comes from you. So we have the 2 gateways connected. And since we have these 2 gateways connected, gateway 1 can then initiate SAT. So SAT happens. And at the end, we can have also the client that goes back to the gateway and say, what happened? What is the completion of SAT? Is it commit? Is it a rollback? So I can understand at the application level what happened. This is 9 and 10.
Parts leading up to.
Sorry for that. So Dennis, one question I had on number 4 is, here we're assuming the client apps are different entities, right? And Alice is trying to send an asset to Bob, but for all intents and purposes, it could be Alice trying to transfer an asset to themselves on another network. So,
correct.
A lot of this stuff is very, very volatile.
You mean? I mean, you should know the other end. You should know that there is a Bob on the other side, even if it is Alice on a different network, isn't it?
Yes, but I mean, if Alice just wanted to transfer an asset on her own account, all of this would change. There wouldn't be the need for step 4 here, because they're aware what they're trying to transfer and what they're trying to do.
The thing is that in the remote side, there might be 4 that goes directly to gateway 2, for example, if this is the case. But the thing is that on the other side, on the other end, okay, there might be shortcut if client 1, I mean, Alice is Alice on the other side. But if you take it in the generality of what we are trying to do here, is that we are having 2 parties that they would like to transfer an asset. So it seems to me that there should be a explicit communication from the sender to the receiver.
Yes, and we have assumed, as part of the SATP, we have assumed that client 1 and client 2, person 1, person 2, system 1, system 2, have had a method of communicating with each other. I just don't want us to be spending too much time as a working group too lost in the detail of what happens before the SAT is initiated, as I feel like so obviously the working group being authorized was based around a very specific set of criteria that the SAT embodies. And what we need to be focusing on is getting the SAT protocol all out and accepted as a working document. And then once that's up and running, and once that's gone through the process, we can look at extending that and applying it to specific use cases.
I understand. So there is not so much about extending. It's more the fact that there are things that are not specified in the protocol. For example, we don't know how gateway 1 and gateway 2 are going to be somehow connected. So there are some things that are still not necessarily 100% specified. And
So is that
the intention here,
I think,
is that a suggestion then for an item that you'd like to add to the SAT, Dennis, in terms of how gateway 1 and gateway 2 identify each other?
if I'm not mistaken, yes, if they're not mistaken, there is somewhere in the original architecture, maybe it's NodeUp, not in SAT, but in the early versions, on what happens in the beginning. So somehow the bootstrapping protocol of SAT, and bootstrapping part of the protocol should be defined. So I'm very happy to write a draft on that.
I think
Thomas,
what you have.
Rama,
Yes,
do you mind
Thomas?
waiting for Thomas's comment and then coming back in? Is that okay?
Sure.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thomas?
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah,
Folks, I forgot. Yeah. Hands up. There's a hands up picture. We need to practice. I forgot.
I'm trying to honor the queue as much as possible.
So just so Dennis, in the SAT core, it's still there. There is a type. So there's 3 API types, which is type 1, which is to go from the application to the gateway, but we never talk about that. It's there in the diagram, but no text. All we talk about is the type 2, which is the one that's supposed to be implemented by the 2 gateways back and forth. But it's still there from the, it's, hasn't, in fact, I don't think we've deleted anything from ODAP. I think we just added stuff towards the end of it. So most of the text, all of the text is still there.
Great. Yeah.
Okay, my turn.
I guess so. You are.
Okay. So what I understood from the protocol preceding SATP was it's kind of a recommendation, but what it ultimately achieves is it puts the appropriate state. It puts the gateways in the appropriate state where they are ready to start on SATP, right?
Correct.
So
correct.
and we can also define the format of that data structure that they both are initialized with. So I think to achieve that, we need to show that, and I think what state they start off with, that is part of the SATP scope. Is that right, Dennis?
Yes, I mean there are a few things that we don't know how the binding between the gateways happens, so we need to establish this, and also we need somehow to communicate the transfer context, to the networks also. So this communication between the client, the gateway, and the network somehow has to be established. So that was this stage 0 kind of flow that I shown here. It's how all the
details
bits gets connected.
But the details of that, I think, were kept out of scope in the charter, though the outcome of that is in the scope, right? I think if we make that fine line, then we can probably satisfy Claire that maybe we need a little bit of discussion on that, because at least the end result of the protocol is part of the SATP scope.
And let's be clear, it's not me we're trying to satisfy. It's everyone else at IETF. I'm just trying to make sure that we're hitting
purely thinking about the way, if you go to implement SAT, there are several unknowns there, and so that's what I was trying to capture, is all the steps that are necessary in order for SAT to to start. When you say begin transfer, there are a lot of magic things that are happening. I mean, gateway knows about the network. I mean, the assets somehow are bound and are locked. How all these things get somehow put all together. So that's the thinking behind it.
Thomas was next.
Thomas.
Sorry. I've got Alex and having two laptops is causing chaos.
Very quickly, Dennis, are you happy if SATP core, if ODAP starts with the assumption that there is already a session ID known between G1 and G2, and that
maybe a context,
how it gets there, that's your part.
Yeah,
we just assume it's there. Somebody says, how do you get there? Talk to Dennis.
Yeah, or a transfer context, or a session, or I don't know, but something that actually defines the instance of the transfer somehow.
Yeah, I think we should focus on the assumptions and what stage 0 means. Like, what are the preconditions that should have happened at stage 0? How does that state look? But not necessarily how the gateways or client applications get there. It's just, okay, what are the hard requirements of information that needs to be available to one gateway or the other? And if we focus,
if you see it, yes, sorry. If you see it as a step, as protocol steps, this stage 0 has some post conditions that are the preconditions of SAT. So instead of showing a flow, we can state them. I mean, what is the output, the exit condition of the stage 0, or the prerequisites for SAT to work?
Yeah, sounds good.
I think that would meet the requirements of the document, from what I understand, from what we need to try and deliver. Having that listed out rather than as a process might be more appropriate at this stage. Yes. Excellent work.
Did we lose Dennis? What happened?
I don't know.
I'm here. I'm just yes, I agree. So
fantastic. No, it's good that we've got that agreement and that consensus. That's exactly what these sessions are for, is to make sure that we've got the information and the essential for the document.
So yeah, what we can do is that we can use the mailing list, so I can modify. I mean, I can describe the preconditions for SAT or the post conditions of this stage 0, and we can discuss, among us about that.
That sounds perfect. Thank you so much for that, Dennis. Thank you for volunteering that.
Dennis, can you email your diagram to the mailing list?
Yes, sure. I will do it. Right after.
PNG file or PDF file.
Yeah.
Thank you. Because I want to look at it carefully.
Fab. And if we're comfortable that we've covered off that topic, as much as we can do today. We've got 5 minutes left. In terms of the other agenda points that we had, probably not got any time to come onto them, so we can wrap that up in the mailing list. That's fine. I did just want to do a last call out to the group. We have published our agenda now, but if there's any burning items to go onto the agenda, we can still make edits to it for the working group on Friday the 31st. There's Thomas.
Not for the IETF specifically, but I've been asked by a couple of people independently, particularly people in Australia, is it possible to have the interim group meetings flip-flopping time zones so that the people in Australia can try to dial in? So and also people from Pacific United States, which I think is okay, 8 p.m., but particularly people in Australia can dial in. So one meeting, current time zone, the next meeting, a different time zone.
Yeah, absolutely. I can, if those people are here, let me know times or time that would work best, and we can try and do a bit of a consensus. If they're not here, Thomas, could you reach out to them, the people that have contacted you, and I can do. I'll see what I can do to move things around a bit.
Okay, will do.
Thank you, Rama.
Yeah. Was there something you needed from me before the meeting? Do I need to provide slides?
Yeah. So any slides that you want to present, any documents that are being worked on, I've spoken to the document authors separately. So Dennis, yourself, and Thomas, if I could have those documents, the last draft ready by Wednesday, the 29th, I think it would be. That way we won't have the situation we've had here in terms of trying to share it on the Meet Echo.
So you mean the vocabulary, right?
Yep. So the vocabulary, if we have any kind of working draft that we'd like to share and discuss, Thomas has got a couple of documents that he's lead author on. I'll speak to Martin separately as I work with him. And Rama, I know you've been working a bit more on the use cases, so the final or the most up-to-date version of that document, if we'd like to discuss them. So we've assigned some time in the working group to the discussion of these documents. That's what we're here to do, is get these documents out. Just to set the scene a little bit for the guys that are the main authors, it would be 5 minutes of an introduction of the topic and then open floor discussion. So you don't need to do too much in terms of slides to present. It would be more introducing, and then the open working group doing what they do best. Fabulous. So with that said, make sure everyone's got their tickets. Friday, 9 a.m. Japan time. We've got 2 hours. We have quite a bit to go through. We've been fairly conservative with our time slots, but know that if we do go over, we'll still have enough time to get all the agenda covered. So we're very excited about that. And like I said, any last agenda points, reach out to me or Wes or both of us. We have quite regular catch-ups ourselves, so we can just make sure that goes on the agenda and we assign the right slots. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much to Thomas for stepping in, as we had connectivity issues over here in London. And I will see you all in Japan. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.